Davis,
Here.
Peralez,
Here.
Jones. You have a quorum.
Thank you. And our chair won't be here today, so I will be chairing the meeting.
And just to note, Arenas is now on.
Great, thank you. And you jumped right to roll, but we're we're calling the meeting to order for the joint meeting of the Rules and Open Government Committee meeting and Committee of the Whole. And we have members here that are participating on Zoom. So if you're joining us by Zoom, you can raise your hand if you'd like to speak, or if you're joining us over the phone, which doesn't look like we have anybody at the moment, you can use *9 to raise your hand, and we'll let you know when you can press *6 to unmute yourself. And so now we'll go ahead and get to the first item, which is the review of the final agenda for the April 27th meeting. We can pull that screen up. Okay, we have pages 1 and 2, 3 and 4.
Council member?
Sorry, go ahead.
It's Nora. I think it's 3 or 4 where we have the, no, I could be wrong, it's later, the return on the return to work ordinance. And
yes, I believe that is a little further down the page.
okay, thank you.
No worries. And as it pops up, we can, what is that? Page 9, I believe. So we'll
Oh, okay.
yeah. Okay. So we've got, if you don't mind, going back to page 4, I believe. There we go. And then 5 and 6. We have 7 and 8. And then now we're at 9.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Nora.
Okay, so item 3.3, not page, thank you. So the question that I want to raise is, I think as most of you know, the state has adopted a return to work statutory scheme for the industries that we cover, as well as at least one other additional one. And I didn't know if it was the preference of this committee to continue to have the matter go to council, or to go ahead and drop it at this point because of the state legislation.
Have you had an opportunity to, I guess, compare the two to see how similar or dissimilar they are?
We have, and I believe there was a confidential memo sent to council on that. I could be wrong. As I recall, the biggest difference, it covered more than we did. We had a bankruptcy carve out. It does not. And we had a provision in there for people who could not return to work immediately because of caring for either themselves or family members because of COVID. And that was, I think, really the only substantive difference. The state legislation was, as I say, it covered a broader group of people, and it had some broader provisions than we had.
Okay, and I see Councilmember Arenas has her hand. My recommendation, and mainly because of, I think that just the timing of this, I would be okay if maybe we either deferred it by a week, or even, I guess the other option would be potentially to drop it and then try to, we may not even need to defer it right to another week. But I would prefer that we at least have some time to kind of chew over what the differences may be to decide. And so I would agree, it doesn't have to come to the council next week, because it may be something that we ultimately don't need to take up. So I'd be comfortable with deferring it out, and then potentially, if we needed to, even dropping it altogether. But go ahead, Councilmember Dennis.
Thank you, Chair. That's exactly what I was going to say, because what I was wondering is if there was already an analysis and a comparison. And so I do think there's some value in bringing it back and continuing to look at that, or at having our city attorney to continue to do that analysis and present it to us. I don't feel comfortable dropping it, but would love to defer it for however long Nora thinks that she needs. And I don't know that we are urgently needing this, since the state is already covering us. So I'll make a motion to defer it, and I can leave it up to Nora to decide the time frame. It doesn't have to be just 1 week.
Okay, that's fine. And I thought we had sent a memo out, but we may not have. It may not have gone out yet. We have done the analysis, so it'll probably be a 1 week deferral, and I may bring it back here also. But we'll get that information to the council if it hasn't gone out yet. And as I say, it has provisions that were not part of what the city was initially contemplating, and then just a couple little things that we had that it doesn't cover. So we'll provide that analysis.
Great. Yeah, it would be great to see how we can reconcile that if we need to, or if we don't have to, because the state already covers it, and then we leave it alone. But at the very least, I'd love to hear that analysis. Thank you, Nora.
Sure.
And I'll go over to my other colleagues, and then I will go to speakers of the public, but I will let us finish the review of the agenda first, but before we open it up to the public, because there may be a couple other items. But on this specific topic, go ahead, Councilmember Cohen.
I don't have a lot to add. I was going to mention that we have members of the public, at least one of who I think is going to give input as to what the timing should be on the deferral. I'm not sure whether 1 week's enough or not. It might take a little more time to understand the differences and find out what we might do to help our workers here locally. I do imagine that the urgency ordinance portion doesn't necessarily have to be an urgency ordinance when it comes back, also because we probably haven't lost the need for urgency. So we could also amend it to no longer have the urgency portion. That was always my saying.
Okay.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, and we didn't get a second on the motion, but I think we'll take up. We'll hold off, Councilmember Arenas, until we go through the full agenda here, and then we'll hear members of the public, and maybe we can come back around. So let's finish going through the pages. So we've got page 9. So now let's go to 10 and 11. And then 12. And if you can pause on 12. I was contacted in regards to the JPA item 3.7, the public purpose bonds issued by Joint Powers Authority for Moderate Income Rental Housing. As staff has released their memorandum on that now, fairly lengthy, I think, in a nuanced topic. And the parties involved are interested in being able to take a look at that and have a response before the council can take up the item. And I'd be willing to give them that opportunity. So I would ask that we could defer that item as well. And I'm happy a week, I think, would be enough, but I don't know if staff would have a suggestion in regards to timing of, would 1 week be, would that week get kind of piled up? I believe that is the May 4th. But I would ask that the maker of the motion include that deferral as well. And so I don't know if staff wanted to comment.
The administration is okay with a 1 week deferral. If for any reason the May 4th agenda looks unbearable when we come back as a rules committee next week, we can make a decision, but staff would support a 1 week deferral.
Okay. So yeah, I'll ask that of the maker of the motion then when that comes to. I'll look. Councilmember Dennis, did you want to speak to this too, or was your hand just up from before?
Actually, both.
Go ahead.
I was also gonna ask for a deferral. I do think that it needs some opportunity, the housing department, to have stakeholder input. And I think it's very reasonable to delay it until early May. So I'll include that as part of my my motion.
Do you
I
want
muted-
a second now? I mean, I'm happy to
I mu-
second it. We just haven't gotten all the way through, so.
Yeah, no, I muted myself. I was going to say we'll take up the full motion after at the end. Thank you. Sorry. Okay, so now we're on page 12. So now we can go down 13 and 14 and then 15 and 16, and we're at the end. Okay, and we have an ad sheet. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I will go over to members of the public now. And if you're here with us, you can use the raise hand feature. And you'll have 2 minutes, which is up on the timer. First up, we have Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Happy Wednesday. There are 2 items to kind of continue my words from yesterday's final public comment at the end of the meeting. One is about is a bit more funding for the charter review process. And, you know, I shared my feelings yesterday about, you know, that I hope it can be a process of refinement in what the future of a strong mayor can be in San Jose, and to go through a certain rules that we expect of the mayor, but just haven't been written down yet, basically. And I hope it can be that simple of a process, and good luck on that issue. I really hope that you can work on the ideas of language interpretation, and money can be spent wisely, that, you know, you work out with Zoom, you know, the English only issues that so often vex ourselves as local communities. I hope we're learning to work through that. Good luck on those efforts. And I've explained before, you can call SJSU students or city government staff and learn to negotiate with city unions about maybe $100 an hour instead of $300 an hour. With 49 seconds, the other item was return together issues that I can see this as kind of a workers' rights issue in a way. And in this time of COVID, how workers can be invited back to their jobs. I thought I would simply offer this time, can you learn to make it a point so workers can ask, will their places of work, will they be using HVAC systems and possible aerosol vaccine systems, and how to make that conversation safe to talk about. And we have to really address, you know, what is the vaccine process, I feel. I hope that's going to be my next work in the next few months, and it can be safe to talk about what exactly is the vaccine process, and the concept of synthetic proteins. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Blair. Next speaker will be Paul Soto.
Yes, thank you, Councilman Perales. I think that there's a moral issue that supports the return to work. There's a very clear, delineated moral and ethical issue. I don't think that the issues surrounding that are strictly law and legalistic. I think that this is sending a message in terms of how the city functions as a body and how it relates to its workforce that we know that has been exploited over generations. You know, the immigration status of a lot of these workers, the reason why they are able to be exploited is simply because of that. SVO went on record as stating that if this does happen, we're going to have a lawsuit. Okay, and it also came out a couple of days ago that this is the major contributor in terms of finances to this city. So it's critically important that everybody get on the same stage. Go ahead, present your argument, and that the city itself be able to see this and know and hear from our council members, hear from the mayor. What positions are you taking on this? Because that is what defines us as a city. And we need to be able to create that space to where we put this is what we value. We value the human beings that work in these restaurants. We value the human beings that clean up the motel rooms. We value the human beings that work in the fast food restaurants. And we have a moral responsibility as a legal body in order to use our powers in order for the protection of these citizens that are vulnerable right now. And a lot of it is because of their immigration status, but that should not be a means to where they are neglected, that status. And so that's why having this is so important, because we have to have these conversations and have everybody weigh in on them so that we know where everybody stands. It's not just legal argument. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And next up is Sarah McDermott.
Good afternoon. I'm Sarah McDermott with Unite Here Local 19. I wanted to speak about SB 93. It's a great baseline, and it was written to set a statewide standard. And we're very excited that it's been passed and that it will provide workers with protections. But it was written to also allow for local governments to pass stronger recall rights. So in that spirit, we do recommend that the city look at ways that they can further enhance recall rights for hospitality workers in San Jose. I think one of the key differences that wasn't mentioned was this includes additional enforcement mechanisms. We recommend having a private right of action, and that is something that is often attached to our minimum labor standards. So you as a council can require that private right of action on top of what is required in SB 93. And that will be a great way of making sure that this law is enforced and that people play by the rules in San Jose. And we look forward to continuing to talk about this issue with you and think about how we can make sure that our hospitality workers are getting back to work. Thank you.
Thank you. And then last up is Vince Rocha.
Hi, thank you, council member. I just really want to support the deferral of the JPA item that you mentioned. You know, the city really does need to work with stakeholders on a considered approach to its missing middle housing solutions. And I certainly appreciate and respect the work staff has done, but believe that additional voices do need to be at the table, because San Jose is nowhere near meeting the need for the demand for missing middle housing. And so we should really take seriously all the solutions on the table. So again, I want to support the efforts to defer the item so that more engagement can be had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll go back to members of the committee. Councilmember Arenas. Oh, and you're on mute, Councilmember.
Sorry, I was just going to mention, because I didn't earlier, that one of the reasons that I believe our housing department and our city staff did not have time to include a broader range of stakeholder voices was because the council had requested this to come back rather quickly. No, the rules committee. And so because we asked them to turn around and come back rather quickly, and to meet the deadline that we asked them to, this is kind of what happens, right? So I didn't want to blame or point fingers or anything like that, because it's not the case. I think it's just part of the process. And sometimes when we want things urgently, you have to expedite and voices get left out. So anyways, I wanted to thank our housing department for their flexibility and for their willingness to defer this item and to hear from our stakeholders. And then hopefully I can get a second.
Okay, and just to confirm, Councilmember Rodriguez, and that is to accept the April 27th agenda with those two items being deferred. And just to make it very clear, we had, let's see here, that the items were 3.3 and then 3.7.
And the ad sheet.
And the ad sheet, thank you.
And yes, and include the ad sheet. Thank you.
So if we can get a second.
Second.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Cohen.
Just quickly, are we talking about deferring both items 1 week each, or was there some other timeline you want to put, separate them so that we don't put too much on one agenda?
Affit said they were comfortable with 1 week on each,
Okay.
unless I'm incorrect, Lee.
No, you're correct.
And then obviously, I think what you had mentioned, Lee, was that if we need to, we have another bite at the apple next week. So,
Yep.
okay. Okay, Councilmember Rodriguez, was your hand back up or just, no, okay. And then Nora, could you just answer in regards to Sarah McDermott's statement on the private right of action? That was something we had included in our initial draft language, correct?
It was, and the state has a different scenario through the state labor commissioner. I couldn't tell you right now which one was more effective. I tend to think the labor commissioner with the penalties they had might be faster, but we'll look at that.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that that's something that you look at, and obviously where, as you pointed out, where we may have some differences from what we had proposed and what we were looking at, and marrying the two. It could be minimal changes, but it could be very valuable minimal changes, and that's what I think I would be interested in hearing. And so I think this deferral gives us an opportunity to do that. And as Councilmember Cohen said, yeah, I think we eliminated the need maybe for an urgency ordinance, but we're just, I mean, now at this point, it's really enhancing, right, what the state has done.
Yes, and the state legislation itself specifically says that local and agencies can do more than what the state has done. So that is expressed in the legislation.
Okay. And I saw Sarah's hand pop up. I don't know if I got something wrong that she said, but I'll go ahead and ask for clarification from Sarah if there was something that I misspoke, but I can't necessarily give you the floor, but I can ask if there was something to reiterate there. Go ahead, Sarah. Oh, and then her hand went down. Oh, there it is. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, my 15-month-old raised the hand.
Hmm.
I apologize.
Okay. then we didn't misspeak on anything. Thank you. Your 15-month-old, maybe they did not like what we said. So thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. If we can get a roll call vote, please.
Reyes,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, and now we can go down to the May 4th agenda. Just gonna pull it up on my screen as well. Okay, we got pages 1 and 2, and 3 and 4, and then 5 and 6. I'll slow down a little bit now as we get into the meat. Then we got 7 and 8 and 9 and 10. There we go. Okay. We'll go over to members of the public first. You'll have 2 minutes. First up will be Blair Beekman.
Hi, what I want to, Blair Beekman here, to try to conclude from my previous public comment. You know, over the next few months, I'm sure as yourselves are very well doing already, as long with Santa Clara County as a city government, and as yourselves as a city government, I'm hoping that how can we make clear that the Moderna process and the Pfizer vaccines are not filled with, micro chip technology, and that synthetic proteins is actually just the assembling of different molecular structures, of humans assembling different molecular structures and being able to put that into the body as a way to combat the COVID issues. And that COVID, this item is meant to speak to the many COVID items on this week's agenda. And that, there's the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and the AstraZeneca, those are homeopathic cures. The Moderna is a process that is a very interesting, inventive new idea. I think there can be ways to do it in the future that don't have to involve, microchip technology and can simply be a synthetic, protein system. How can we learn to talk about that openly and make that clear to people? I'm interested in how to do that over the next few weeks and months, and that's what I'll try to do. For the other items on the agenda, you're going to be talking about community development issues. How are we going to talk about the future of COVID and how we're getting out of it, and the importance of funding in our lives and how that's helping ourselves and that we can rely on it as a service? I think we just really got to learn to talk about that openly and all that it can offer creatively and good terms for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Blair. And our next speaker will be Paul Soto.
Thank you. I'm requesting some clarification on the Pellier Park issue in terms of getting bids from some contractors. Specifically, is that with regard to the felon statute? I would like to know that, and if it is, I would like it the language amended to reflect that. I'm requesting that. That's number one. Number two, what Urban Confluence is attempting to do here in the city, they sold that as public art. They marketed it as public art, all their language, because I went back and I reviewed it, and all their language was this is going to be public art. Art. That is not public art. Okay, and see, this is the con game where we, the public, get conned. That's a building. That is a building. That is considered a building. It is not public art. Okay, and I just recently discovered that. Okay, so the way that the city is being marketed by all of these outsiders that are coming in, and they're just have the welcome mat. Here, just come into our city and just do whatever it is that you want. And if it's something that really can't, we'll just switch the language and we'll con the citizens. And then we'll just go ahead and insert it anyway to demonstrate our power and show them who runs this city and that we are in control of it. And that if there's something that's codified into law, we'll just change the law. That's a lot of exercising of power, where this city still has not confronted the reality of how they acquired that power in the first place with respect to the decimation of the native populations and Peter Burnett giving his inaugural address from here, because this was the state capital, which he requested for the extermination of the Native American Indians. So those are the two things with respect to Urban Confluence and a felon statute issue at Pellier Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and we'll go back to members of the committee. Not seeing any hands. If we can get a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the May 4th tentative agenda here. And then just in regards to a response of Paul Soto's comment on the Pellier Park, the Pellier Park is adjacent to where the felon statute currently stands. This in particular, this bid and award of contract is not going to impact the statute and is only intended to impact on the actual park itself, which is adjacent to it. So, but not, what will not involve the statute. Okay, if we can get a roll call vote, please.
Arenas,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Corrales.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll go down to Item B1, the review of the upcoming special meetings. We have the April 29th, the City of San Jose Public Safety, Finance, and Strategic Support Committee, meeting with the committee, or excuse me, as a committee of the whole, meeting with the County of Santa Clara Children's, Seniors, and Families Committee.
Move approval.
We have a motion for approval
Second.
and a second. And we have one public speaker. We'll go over to Blair Beekman first for the vote.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. My hand was up for public record, so I will not have anything else to say for this item at this time, but thank you that it's on the agenda.
Thank you, Blair. Okay, then if we can get a roll call vote, please.
Chair, I raised my.
I'm sorry, I just saw that pop up. Yep, go ahead, Councilmember Dennis.
Well, I just wanted to take a moment to invite everybody from our Rules Committee. All of our council members are invited and allowed to participate. This is a PISFIS committee joint meeting with the county. So only members of the committee can vote, but anybody can participate. Everyone, all of the council members can participate in the conversation. And this conversation, like I've said before, is a culmination of a couple of years of work in coordination with our county department, with our county counterparts on the topic of sexual assault. And so I hope that everybody can make it, and I hope our community can also attend, as it's absolutely open to them as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now, if we can get a roll call vote, please.
Arenas,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Peralez.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, nothing under legislative update. That takes us down to item D1, meeting schedules. We have the setting of the general plan hearing for this May. We can.
Move approval.
Got a motion.
Second.
And a second. We do have one public speaker on this item, so we'll go over to him. And Paul Soto, you'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Redlining and all of the associated deprivation of wealth, the abuse that happened with kids in the schools for speaking Spanish, you know, how that was passed down generationally. All of these things the city is dealing with right now. We are contending with it. I know for sure, for a fact I am. Okay, and there's all of these social, economic that created this perception that the symptoms of those issues, when they surfaced in the generations, were criminalized. You see, and so this is why it's so critically important that the city take a formal stance, because what you're doing is you're making these decisions, but yet in the next breath, you'll talk about equity, you'll talk about racial equity, you'll talk about in every single policy. But yet, those are just words inserted in the policy. There's absolutely there's no potency to it, because you can't see a reflection of that within the way that the policy is shaped. They're just words. And so that's why it's important, because what you're doing right now is you're saying, yes, redlining happened and it created all of these imbalances that we're dealing with now. Yeah, but anyway, put that building over there, that over there. Oh, I'm sorry, you're going to suffer as a result of it. Oh, man, damn, you should have worked harder. You should have worked harder. You see, and what it does is that people that really think like that, it gives them credibility. And we as a city, being silent on the issue, we're actually betraying those whom we speak so eloquently about protecting. This is why it's so critical that the moral authority be exercised with respect to land use and zoning.
Thank you, Paul. We'll go back to Councilmember Arenas.
Sorry, that was unintentional.
Okay. Another toddler, President, we're getting a repeat here. No. Okay. If we can get a roll call vote, please.
Arenas,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, that'll move us on to item E, the public record. And they are attached, and I do believe we had Blair Beekman that had wanted to speak on this before, so we'll go over to him. Blair, you'll have 2 minutes.
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman here. For this item, I was interested in, it seems to be that many of the public record letters this week are about density issues in San Jose, and there's a bit of worry with the letter writing about the future of density. You know, I've been trying to offer for months now the idea of what mixed income housing can offer. I tend to like it for very low and extremely low income ideas, how it can work with affordable housing for people who live in the 70, 80, 90, $100,000 range. How can you bring people together well in the $30,000 and $40,000 with people in the $90,000 to $100,000? It's mixed income ideas. What I find is they're really interesting, and I lack a certain depth to better understand the issue. I'm sorry about that. You probably well know that by now. But yourselves have had just years of knowledge and learning about the subject, and it's like every year you find new ways to apply mixed income ideas. I think it's time to really consider creative good ideas with mixed income and really turn it on, basically, and consider how mixed income can really address these density issues, I feel, and relieve some of the pressure, so we don't have to necessarily have massive buildup, but as a way to offer slight buildup, I guess. And I don't know the depth of it, but it's part of a creative process that I think mixed income housing. Sorry, I got a phone here. I mean, what really offers our future and how to consider our issues as a community and how in our housing and how to build, really well-meant, really good intentioned housing for our future and our future of our neighborhoods. And that's the reimagine ideas, and it's good stuff. Just a reminder. Thank you.
Thank you, Blair. Next up is Paul Soto.
Thank you. I also read the letters, and you see because the city, it's both the city and the county have been quiet on these issues with respect to redlining and all of the exact way articulated clearly how those things manifested. What it's done, it's created this false sense of entitlement to the affluent Anglo. It is given that, and that is actually that sense of entitlement that this area is mine. That kind of attitude stems from July 14th, 1846, when the flag was planted. This is mine, and everybody else off with your heads. This is critical, because what it has done over the generations, it has created this sense of superiority in the minds of some. At the same time, it has created a perception of inferiority for others that don't live there. And once you do live in there and you've gotten part of the club, now you're rooted and connected. I mean, let me give you another example. You have Nagley up at the park. Nagley, you just go there and you read that plaque. It was placed there by his daughters, not the city. The daughters put that there. And when you look at it, this dude was an actual general in the Mexican-American War. And this is put at a park where Tiburcio Vasquez was hung. I mean, all the iconography and all the language is right there in front of you. It's just that either we as a city are going to confront that and really accept the responsibility of doing that, or just why even talk about equity anymore? It's like a con game. It's like a con to the people to keep them pacified so that they really don't comprehend the enormity of what's going on around them right in front of their eyes.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, we can go back to members of the committee. I don't believe we have a motion on this yet.
I move to accept the public record.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. If we can get a roll call vote, please.
Arenas,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Peralez.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go on to item F1A, which is the appointment of Patrick Chung to the Viva Advisory Committee, which is the Voluntary Employees Beneficiary Association.
Move approval.
A motion
Second.
and a second. If we can get a roll call vote, please.
Arenas,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Peralez.
Aye. Okay, thank you. And then now that takes us down to item G, G1, which we have our consent calendar.
Move approval.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. See no hands raised. If we can get a roll call vote, please.
Arenas,
Yeah.
Cohen,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Peralez.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That concludes our regular agenda. We'll now open it up for public comment and open forum. First up is Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman. To try to be a messenger and not, hopefully you don't hurt the messenger here. I really like the SJ Spotlight story the past week about talking about the mayor's issue about the future of the hydrogen fuel cell structures and its deal with Bloom Energy and its use of natural gas. I thought it was a good story. I hope, when we consider this issue, I've learned a lot since this issue first came out, and I've been talking about, that we need to actually prepare for an actual earthquake in the next few years. And I'm really sorry if I've been a bit too strong in that area. I hope someone can correct me in the future, but at the same time, if I'm offering information that is of interest and worth considering and talking over and realizing that I may not be that far off, and if I'm not, then we start preparing for what could be a very possible thing of an earthquake in the next few years. And I think we're all sort of addressing the issue. Maybe we can exact it down a bit further and really prepare. And that's really good practices of renewable energy and the like, that I feel if we practice renewable energy ideas now and really focus on that, if a big earthquake or other natural disaster does happen in the next few years in the Bay Area, we can be prepared to go right back into our good practices. We don't have to be stuck in brown energy, and I'm sorry to call it brown energy, dirty fuel energy and the like, which the mayor is trying to address. He wants to create natural gas, is my feeling, as a backup generator source to avoid the fossil fuel use. Now, that's the question. How do you want to address that? That's our future questions to ask about hydrogen fuel cells. And can hydrogen fuel cells use renewable energy instead of natural gas? Thanks.
Thank you, Blair. And our last speaker will be Paul Soto.
A quote from a letter from a Birmingham jail written in 1963. I had the hope that the white moderate would understand that law and order exist for the purpose of establishing justice, and that when they fail in this purpose, they become dangerously structured dams that block the flow of social progress. I had hoped that the white moderate would understand that the present tension in the South is a necessary phase of the transition from an obnoxious negative peace in which the Negro passively accepted his unjust plight to a substantive and positive peace in which all men will respect the dignity and worth of human personality. Actually, we who engage in nonviolent direct action are not the creators of tension. We merely bring to the surface the hidden tension that is already alive. We bring it out into the open where it can be seen and dealt with, like a boil that can never be cured so long as it is covered up, must be opened with all of its ugliness to the natural medicines of air and light. Injustice must be exposed with all of the tension exposure creates to the light of human consciousness and the air of national opinion before it can be cured. There is absolutely, end quote, There's absolutely nothing else that I do with my time, with my life, with all of the hours. I spend probably about 60 hours plus in terms of research and participation at these meetings. This is the only goal that I have in mind. I have no other. I have no ambitions for money. I have no ambitions for anything else other than to squaring this, because what I fear is the future, and those citizens that are not going to have what it is that I have right now, they're not going to have the benefit of this. And so that's the role that I serve in this community. And I can tell you this much,
Thank you, Paul. Could we, I think he got cut off there. I was going to let him finish up that last bit of the statement. I don't know if we chopped him up, but I think he was just wrapping it up.
no, but I like your metaphor, chopped up.
Paul, did you?
Thank you.
Did you
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
No, but your metaphor just kind of caught me off guard to be chopped up. But thank you.
All right. That's it. Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.